Because if you didn't know, now you know. So welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a kind of a simple video here. I'm just trying to take things mellow. You know, I don't want to do so much hardcore editing. I feel like some of the videos I've had in the last couple of months, I've just dumped like so many hours into, and I'm just tired of like doing all this editing. So we're gonna keep it simple. And today we're gonna talk about some M16s, my favorite M16s. I know there'll be somebody in the comments who gets upset and they're like, that's not a real M16, that's a 20-inch AR. Real M16s are blah, blah, blah. Understand that we're talking about a 20-inch rifle configured like the M16A1, A2, or the A4. So you can turn your nerd brain off for a little bit and just kind of enjoy, right? Have a little bit of fun with me. So over the years I've been doing this channel, I've had a couple of different M16 style of guns, whether that was the A1, the A2, A3 from Battlefield, and then the A4 from Modern Warfare 2. So I wanted to talk today about which one is my favorite and kind of which one is the best. Now I know the best is it's a very subjective thing. It's a very, that's what like normies type into the YouTube search bar when it's like, oh, what's the best? You know, like that's what I'll do about something I don't know about. Like, oh, I'll be trying to buy a new lens or something for the camera. What's the best lens? You know what I mean? It's like this very broad, generic word. So this is gonna be kind of an opinionated video on how I rank the different M16s and how you as a buyer, if you don't have one of these and you're trying to get into like a 20-inch AR, which way to go and kind of what my advice is. Now, should you take up my advice? You know, probably not. I'm just a guy, I'm just an enjoyer of these guns. I'm not a soldier, you know, I'm not a cop or anything like that. I'm just a collector and an appreciator. All right, so what's like the best general M16 to get? If you're just trying to dabble, you're not really trying to go too hard in the military history aspect of it, you're not trying to go for that retro, something like the M16 A4 kit. These can be hacked very inexpensively. I'm not trying to sell you anything, like I'm not making money off of any of these guns or anything like that. But the M16 A4 kits are very affordable. PSA, with all their faults, they do have very affordable like A4 kits that you can snag for, you know, 4 or 5 Benjamins. You get a lower. They make a lot of like clone lowers as well. Throw that together and you got yourself a very usable, you know, kit. It's not going to come with the Knights rail like this will. This is a P and S, it's the same thing, but you know, it's not going to come with the quad rail, but it will come with, you know, the standard clamshell handguards, and it'll come with a detachable carry handle. Having like a detachable carry handle is better than having like an M-bus or like some little like crappy backup sights. So if you get a rifle, you know, such as this, it'll come like this sort of without the grip and the quad rail and the paint job and the, you know, light that surefire suit out of existence. But it would be a very basic setup and you've seen them around. And that's probably the best general gun you can get because it allows you to dabble with that 20-inch, you know, a pattern rifle. You still have a flat top so you can throw that detachable carry handle on there to kind of have the, if you want to go for that sort of retro, I hate to say, I gotta find another word for retro, but if you want to go for that old school vibe, you know, you can throw a detachable carry handle on and it passes, but you can also throw your optics on, you can throw a quad rail on, you can scale it up or as much as you want, and you can scale it down as much as you want as well. It's very modular and it really is the best rounded, you know, sort of platform as far as these 20-inch rifles go. If you have been here on the channel for any number of, I don't know, any number of hours, I don't know what that means. If you've been on this channel before, you'll recognize the M16A3. If you played Battlefield 3, you'll recognize this kind of gun. The A3 in real life was a full auto variant of mainly the M16A2, but there are some variants out there on, you know, A3 or A full auto lowers with quad rail flat top uppers. So it's kind of this weird transitional gun that doesn't really, like, it exists in like the A2 configuration mainly, but they also had variants. These guns have been aging with the fleet. They've modified them as well by throwing on, you know, A4 uppers and whatnot. The way I got this gun set up is actually with a A1 stock because you get a little bit of a shorter length of pull, which I enjoy. And then I've recently thrown on this GG&G it's actually an A2 sling point. And the reason that we got that there is because I don't want to mess up, because typically when you're mounting a sling to these, when you're dealing with A1 or A2 stocks, it's a little bit more challenging simply because, like, you could just use paracord and tape, but you're not going to have all the QD points that you're going to have on like a modern stock or anything like that. It's a little more challenging. So, you know, typically when it comes to putting a sling on these, you either got to paracord around I removed it, but around the rear sling point, you put some paracord around there and then you duct tape the whole thing kind of like Ranger style. And then you have a sling point, a piece of paracord that when you throw the gun on, you know, that piece of cord is coming up instead of being attached to the bottom. So when you go to transition, the gun doesn't do that. Then I currently just have it with the tied to the front side base. I probably need to get something to just connect it right here. This is not a great place to put a sling, I will say, because when you go to rack it, if you're racking it at the wrong angle, it can get caught, it can obstruct. If you're coming back here, depending on how your sling is, you might not be able to get your hand all the way back. You might have to use your right hand to get it, and that's definitely suboptimal. But this is the only way I can really mount a sling on this for the time being, because I did remove that rear sling point, and I want to retain the wrapped stock aesthetic from Battlefield 3 for obvious reasons. And then of course, you know, quad rail, and then the old light that I have on here. You can of course throw a quad rail on any of these other guns, but I'm somebody who likes to kind of remain within the realm of clone correctness, you know? So I don't really like to throw, for example, a quad rail on like an M16A1, like Korean style. You can certainly do that, but it's just not my cup of tea. I think that the M16A4 scales much better than some of these other ones. So moving back, let's start at the beginning. So let's say you are really about the history, and you're getting into this not because you care that much about like 20-inch ballistics. You just want it because it looks cool and it's iconic. And there's really not a better way to go than with the M16A1. For all intents and purposes, this is the first AR-15. Now, if you really want to get like autistic about it, you'll be like, well, actually the 601, it had the duckbill and the, you know, little triangular charging handle. But, you know, to the average, you know, gun owner, this is going to be like an archaic. This is the first M16. This is the A1. So after that, the bugs got worked out and everything was, you know, sorted and actually became like a respectable rifle in Vietnam, the A1 was that gun. So I love the A1 because, well, I love this gun because it's originally a Colt. If you've been on the channel, we're just rehashing the same talking points we've been for 3 years. But the upper's a Colt, lower's a H&R, and then the furniture is GI. This is a legitimate, which I'm gonna call it handguard. This is actually on loan to me. I need to give it back to my boy Matt. And then this is an airsoft M203. During the 4th of July, I actually threw some, I think it was like Roman candles or something in here. So I would light it. So I'd have this thing open like this. And I would light it and I would throw it in there and I would close it and I would launch it. I got some pictures on Instagram of what it looks like. It actually looks pretty dope, and it worked pretty well. But the challenging part about having a M203 kind of setup on an M16 like this is, one, the grenade launchers can be kind of hard to find, the airsoft ones at least. The real ones are very expensive. They're like $3,000. LMT makes them, like the actual clone M203s. There's also some like other flare launchers, like some more inexpensive ones you can get, but they don't look as good to me as this. So this one even has a Colt markings. I don't know which airsoft company actually makes this, but it has Colt markings and everything on it, so it looks pretty dope. The real challenge though is setting it up such as this. The handguards, these heat shield handguards, can be had for pretty inexpensive as well. I mean, inexpensive relatively speaking, they're like maybe 120 bucks or so on Gunbroker. The challenge is when you try to mount the grenade launcher to the actual handguard. So there's this little piece that you mount from the M203 onto the barrel, and then this goes over it. So you either, you know, those little pieces are very hard to find and they're attached to like real grenade launchers. So you kind of have to find a workaround. And what I've done is I've just tied paracord to the grenade launcher and then wrapped it around the barrel. So because traditionally the M203 is held by the barrel, but I don't have that piece. So I wrapped it in paracord. So it does wobble. It's very like unstable. Like I'll like maybe show in B-roll. So it's just really for the looks. Honestly, it's just for the vibe as like a wall hanger more than anything. So not a permanent setup. I'll probably throw this on like an M4 or something later on. I'm just kind of ranting at this point about random stuff. I just like the M16A1, you know, Vietnam vibes for sure. You kind of get to go back to the beginning and it puts you in the perspective of that GI, that grunt in the jungles. I mean, I live in the South and it can get, I check it routinely. The humidity levels here will get worse than Vietnam. It'll be more humid and more hot here and at a certain time than Vietnam over the summer. I mean, it's been miserable these last couple of weeks. Another reason I haven't really been wanting to film, but just having something like this, you can really put yourself into the perspective of that grunt walking through the jungle, you know, and it's just, you know, little short guys with sandals and AKs are trying to kill you. You take this around your friends and they'll look at it and be like, oh, that's pretty sick, you know, Scarface, Predator, you know, all these kinds of things, all these iconic movies that the M16A1 with the grenade launcher like this is in. And then even without it, it's still a very, you know, with the triangular handguard, it's a very iconic looking gun. And it definitely is more of a collector's item. I mean, they're still very usable, especially like if you find like a Colt SP1 and stuff like that, I would probably, I mean, still shoot it obviously, but those are a little more valuable than, you know, an incomplete sort of thing like I have here with the H&R and stuff like that. And these are also very plentiful. They are more expensive than your A4 clones because of, if you're not counting the Knights Armament rail, they're more expensive just because I guess it's a proprietary thing. They know people will pay for it. But there's plenty of them out there now. They can be had, and it's a really good market now as opposed to what it was a few years back. The A1 is a beauty, and you know, I really enjoy shooting it. Of course, it's got the 1 in 12 twist barrel, so At least this one does. You can get ones with the 1 in 7 out there. The 1 in 12, you will keyhole like at 5 inches with like 62 grain ammunition. So it's pretty much only eats 55 grain. The plus side of that is that your 55 grain is awesome. It's very spicy and it's exactly what it needs to be, but you can't really shoot anything more than that. Like I said, there's other manufacturers out there that are making the 1 in 7. So if you are trying to turn this into like a duty gun, I guess you can get a little bit better accuracy out of it, you know, in that sense. But I love the A1, but it's definitely for the enthusiast. It's definitely for the guy who wants to kind of have a little piece of history, a little piece of nostalgia that they didn't experience. You know, the A1's really good for that. Or if you just want to give PTSD to your, you know, neighbor down the street who was in Vietnam, you know. All right, coming up last is gonna be the A2. Now the A2, I like the A2. This gun was actually provided to me by Davidson Defense. They didn't pay me, they just gave me the gun for free, which I don't like paying. I do have a video on this, but the A2, this is almost like more of a H-bar style. Well, it is an H-bar. It's kind of like reminiscent of the old Colt H-bars because the real life M16 A2 does not have a heavy barrel. It has a skinny barrel under here, and then it gets thicker out here. Why they did that is like, I remember watching like a Small Arms Solutions video where he said that they thought that paratroopers would be like landing, and they would land and like, if they hit the barrel, it would be like stable out here, and it wouldn't like give, something stupid like that. There's kind of like, you'll see it on Instagram every now and then, like the hypothetical what the M16A2 should have been. You know, it'll be like a C7 upper with like a ghost ring sight, like the 2 different rear peep sights on it, like how the Canadians basically did, but it'll have like A2 handguards. Cause like the A2 handguards were a really reasonable upgrade to the M16 from the, you know, A1, because the A1, the handguard on those, the triangular ones, those are 2 separate pieces. So those teeth would shatter, you know, it's older plastic and stuff like that. It's not like a nice polymer like we have today, or even like they had in the 80s. You know, it's a weak thing, and you'll get the teeth shattered on that, and those are 2 separate parts. Whereas this one, it's the same part, you know, upside down. So if you shatter one of these, which can happen. I remember reading in the Black Hawk Down book, a bomb went off and like Ranger's A2 handguards like flew off, they like broke. But if you lose one, they're the same thing. So it's 1 part number and you just have 2 of them, as opposed to the 2 separate ones that the M16A1 has. So there's a lot of good upgrades from the A1 to the A2. And the most controversial would be the sights. The sights on these are really target sights. So the Marine Corps kind of helped bring this thing into the world. We all know the Marine Corps prides themselves with, you know, an emphasis on marksmanship. So the A2 sights were designed to basically effectively engage a target up to like 800 meters. Hypothetically, right? That's like ideal conditions, perfect wind, good shooter, you're laying down, supported, 800 meter shots repeatedly kind of thing. And the sights they're definitely built for that. They're built by a mathematician. So I read the manual on how to zero these things, and I just listened to that. So in a very basic sense, I understand them. But of course, I don't have as much experience shooting these, especially at longer ranges like Marines qualify with. Marines do qualify like I think they got to shoot a target at 500 meters, but it's like as big as a shed. Like it's a massive target. So I don't really know if that counts. You know, I don't know if that, but you know, nonetheless, the A2 sights are, they're very good target sights. Now there's the whole like, they're not as good as combat sights because the A1 has very simple combat sights, so to speak. So it has 2 apertures as well. One's long, one's short. I think you zero at like 25 yards. I remember watching a Paul Harrell video, he was talking about that. I think he zeroed at 25 yards and then he confirmed at 100. And then on this one, you zero for like, it's like 25 meters, the A2 that is, 25 meters, confirm at 300. So the Marine Corps still used meters, or I'm sorry, yards when they were, you know, issuing the M16 A1. And I was also watching like Henry Ninehole. He was saying that back in the day, in order to hit targets at like 500 yards, a drill instructor in like basic training would come around and like change your front sight to compensate for it. Whereas the A2 has a built-in, I don't want to say compensator because that might be used completely wrong. That's a wrong word, but this adjusts for both windage and elevation. So when you zero, you've got your windage knob right here. So you adjust your windage like normal. You mechanically zero it. There's ways to do all this. You can look up mechanically zero, and then you take your first shots. You adjust your windage with back here, and then you adjust your elevation up here. Once you get the gun zeroed at whether it's 25 meters or 36 yards, or you know, and then 300, then you set it all, you're good to go. Then when you go to, let's say you're in the field, you're doing some target shooting. When you go to shoot at distance, you're not adjusting the front sight to compensate. You're adjusting this rear drum, because when you adjust the rear drum, it raises that rear sight up to compensate, and the drum is marked for, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 800 meters. So in a hypothetical situation, you're there, you're in combat, you know exactly the distance an enemy is, and you're like, all right, he's right at 600 meters. You know what I mean? So that's the hypothetical thing. Also, the drum has, I think when you're laying down, you can see it from the top as well. So it shows you the numbers here on the side and from above. So you can see it from multiple angles. Kind of a controversial, I guess, sight among some people. Eugene Stoner didn't like some of the changes with the A2. Who really cares about all that? I think that the A2 is a fine rifle, and it's probably, I'm gonna say it's the best iron sights that are available for the AR-15. The close second would be like the detachable carry handle, because that's a little bit different. That's 6.3, this one is marked 8.3 on the side of the knobs. But they're both phenomenal iron sights. And basically, in practice, after you get the whole gun zeroed, it's got two apertures. You got one that says 0 to 2, and then you got the small peep sight. The small peep sight's for 300 and beyond. And then what I like to do is zero the gun, throw on the big sight, and then everything from 0 to 200 meters, if you're inside that range, you're gonna be able to land good shots. So that's what I do. As you can see, I don't have a ton of like long sight to be able to shoot. So 0 to 2 for me works perfectly. So I throw it on the big sight and just leave it and kind of forget it. So how would I rank these guns now? Okay, well, it's hard to say. So let me give you a brief, like a real quick snippet, the summary of each, and then I'll tell you which one I think is the best. And like if I had to sell them all, but only keep one, like which one I think is the best. So the M16A1 is going to be, for the enthusiast, the absolute enjoyer or the collector. It makes a great wall hanger. It makes a cool piece of, you know, kind of history. If you can find a old Colt SP1, great. If you just buy like a reproduction, also really cool. It's just a cool gun to have. Let's try to use some more intelligent words here. It's iconic. It just has a cool vibe to it, all right? That's all I can say about the A1. You know, AK guys, they all got like a wooden AK. You know, they also have nice AKs, but I feel like you're not a real AK guy unless you got like a nice, Romanian, is that a good? Man, I don't have an AK, so I'm not like in that. But let's just say a Romanian. Like, I feel like they would look down upon you if you don't have a nice AK with some wood furniture, a classic looking gun, and you just have like nice stuff. They'd be like, bro, where's your Romanian? Where's your Yugo AK or whatever? Where's your Chinese AK? Your basic AK. And that's like kind of how I am with the AR. It's like, bro, I know you got like a nice AR setup, but where's the old school, man? You got to have at least one old school. And the M16A1 is a perfect gun for that. Now, if you want the best iron sights and you're maybe looking for target shooting, guys that are doing iron sight target shooting in this day and age, few and far between, probably some older gentlemen out there. But let's say you can't afford an optic, you can really only buy one gun, and you're like, man, I really want an M16, I need one gun. It's not even making sense for the argument, because my argument is going to be the M16A4 is the best one to buy, which I already said in the beginning. But understand that the A2, like I had a friend who hit me up and he was like, hey, you know, I'm trying to, like, what is like the best way to shoot irons on a rifle? And I told him, I said, dude, an M16A2, just grab an upper. It's like the best way to shoot iron sights if that's what you're enjoying. If that's what you care about the most, snag an A2 upper and you will appreciate, you know, the art of shooting iron sights at distance. Now, if you want the best general purpose, the one that I would not sell, right? Kind of like a Hickok 45 kind of thing. It's the M16A4 or the A3 in this configuration. For all intents and purposes, it's like the same thing. It's iconic to me because it's a Battlefield 3 clone, but I think it's the most functional, you know? You got the same sight, really. Yeah, I mean, it's detachable, so there might be people concerns about holding zero. I don't have those concerns. I think it's fine. I think many people in the military use these sights for a long time and they were fine. But it allows you to have those A2 rear sights, but it also allows you to scale it up and make it look cool. And that's kind of what it's all about, right? Looking cool. So yeah, it's certainly an archaic system. And we're talking about the M16. We're not, I guess you are seeing some of those in like Ukraine, like at least in the early war, you got the guys with like the C7 and stuff like that were using the Canadian M16. There's the historical significance of the A1 and it being a Colt upper that would be like, man, I really want to keep that gun because I don't want to sell it because it is an old Colt SP1 or an M16A1. I was told it was an M16A1 upper, whatever that means. And then, you know, I probably would sell the A2 because, hey, sorry A2, you're just not as cool to me as the A3 or the A1. So you're gonna have to go. And then after that, I might say bye to the A1. I don't know, dude, because this one's unique to me. This is my baby right here, dude. You know, a lot of time spent on Battlefield 3 with this gun. And that's why I love it, dude. I can throw an ACOG on here and it's you know, 20 inches of justice. This is a government profile barrel as well, so it's skinny under here and then a little bit thicker out, like I was talking about the A2. I don't have an optic on here right now because I'm enjoying the old school. Indigestion. I don't have an optic on here right now because I'm enjoying the old school iron sights. I'm enjoying the old vibe from the Battlefield 3 beta circa early 2011. So that's why we got that. But if I get an ACOG or something, or some other clone corrected Battlefield optic, which I did have the Trijicon on for a little bit, you know, I might throw an ACOG on here to really spice it up, give it the, I forget his name, Makovich, I think his name is in the campaign. I think he runs an EOTech. And then, you know, you got the ACOG as well. It's like the first optic you unlock a Battlefield. I'm ranting at this point. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you guys, even if you didn't get anything out of it, I hope you just enjoyed hanging out with me. I'm not a historian, so I'm not gonna break down in autistic detail every single little thing, but it's like, POV, you're my friend, and I've got you tied up, and I'm just explaining M16s to you, and what I like about them and what I don't like. I guess I didn't really talk about what I don't like. What I don't like about the, I guess my A1 is, I guess the sling points. You know, the sling points down here. So running a sling to it, I did have some paracord wrapped up back here before, but I like to just have the basic shiny stock. Nice and exposed. I don't want the ugly tape all over it. The barrel, not being a 1 in 12 twist, kind of limits what kind of ammo you can shoot. 55 grain is plentiful and inexpensive for the most part, so it's fine. But it does limit your options there. So I mean, there's that. And then the M16A2, this particular one, got a heavy barrel on it, which I don't love. I much prefer if this had a government profile on it. And then of course, I did have some tape wrapped up on the stock before. I took it off just because, what don't I like about this gun? About this particular Davidson defense rifle, I don't like the markings that they chose. That's kind of a smaller detail. As far as the functionality of the gun, doesn't affect anything. But I would say the heavy barrel on the A2 is kind of like the one thing I don't like that much. And then the A4, what don't I like about this? Nothing, it's beautiful, it's perfect. All right guys, I appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. This is my, if you've been on the channel for any number of, you know, time, I'm getting a UPS delivery right now, so I gotta like chill out and like hold my gun. I'm self-conscious. How's it going? I thought he was gonna come over here, scared me. Like, don't come over here. We're shooting a YouTube video, all right? Take it easy. I actually know that driver. He, before, he commented on, because I have like a PSA sticker on one of my, this is when I didn't know anything. I put a PSA sticker on the back of my car, because I went to the one in South Carolina, so I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. It is, it's kind of like Guitar Center for guns, PSA is, but I have a sticker on my back, and that was the driver who was like, oh, you got a PSA? Like, I got a PSA, I love PSA. It's like, you work for UPS, brother. You can have anything you want. Don't UPS drivers make like $200,000 a year?